Okay, so this problem, we're going to use systems, and like it says, we're going to write equations. Those equations, I want to stress the word equations, plural, two of them. The other thing I want to stress is that we have two things that we don't know. How many laps and how many minutes. Let me go ahead and read the problem first, and then I'm going to repeat what I said a second ago. It says Isaac and Vincent got in trouble at football practice and have to run laps as a consequence. I used to coach football, and nobody liked running laps. Anyway, Isaac, who runs at a rate of 1 lap per minute, had completed 10 laps already. That's a lot of laps. When he was joined on the track by Vincent. Vincent's pace is 6 laps per minute. He's way faster. Wow. At some point, the two will have run the same distance. How many laps will each boy have run, and how long will it take? So let me say that question in another way. They want to know the number of laps and the number of minutes. Okay, I'm going to make a note to remind you of what I just said. And I'll put that note down here. We need to write two equations with two unknowns. And by that I mean two letters or variables. Okay. All right, let's make that no longer. We need to write two equations with two unknowns. The two things that we don't know in this problem are how many laps and how many minutes. How many laps and how many minutes. Let me remind you that those were the things that they asked for here and here. How many laps and how many minutes. So what we're going to do is use a letter for each of those things that we don't know. Why did that change up like that? Okay, so how do I get that to go on there? Let's use L for laps. Let's do it this way. For laps, let's use L. That doesn't look like an L, it looks like a 1, but and for minutes, let's use M. Okay. All right, let me highlight those also. M and L. All right. I'm also going to use different colors here. You don't have to, of course. So again, it says that let's use blue for Isaac. Isaac, his speed is 1 lap per minute, and he already has 10 laps down. He's already started. He's been running for a while, goofing around in practice or whatever. All right, so for Isaac, we'll do it in blue. The number of laps that he has run, the number of laps is equal to the 10 that he's already run. I'm going to put the 10 over here. Plus 1 lap. I'm going to make my 1 not look like the letter L by putting a little curve on the L, by writing the L in cursive and the 1 with a regular digit like that. So that's how many laps Isaac has run. 10 laps plus 1 lap every minute, or 1 lap every minute plus 10 laps. I want to write it so that, I'm sorry, that's not right. I'm sorry, 1 lap every minute. That should be an M, sorry. Yeah, we want to have both letters in both of our equations. We want to have 2 letters in each equation, 2 unknowns. Sorry. 1 lap every minute plus 10 laps that he's already run. Let's use red for the other kid, Vincent. Vincent, he goes 6 laps per minute, and he hasn't run any yet, it looks like. He just started, yeah. Okay. So, Vincent just started goofing off it or whatever. The number of laps that he has run is 6 laps per minute, but he hasn't run any yet. So we could put a 0 here. You don't really need to write anything. When it's 0, you notice it doesn't say he already completed so many laps, because he didn't complete any yet. He just started. And once again, I wrote that 0 there, but I'm going to erase it because you don't need to have it. You could have it, but you really don't need to. So now we have 2 equations, and we also want these equations to be as simple as possible. But now, like it said at the beginning, we have 2 equations, and we have 2 unknowns, 2 letters, 2 things that we have to find out. Now remember, this is substitution. That means we're going to replace one of the letters with some expression. Now, there are 2 things that this problem says that L is equal to. It says that L is equal to 1 plus 10m. I'm sorry, 1m plus 10. But it also says that L is equal to 6m. We could replace either one. And let me just make more room. And I'm going to do it this way. You could switch it and do it the other way. I'm going to say that since right here it says that L is equal to 6m, that means that whenever we see an L in the other equation, in the blue equation, we could replace that L with 6m. Let me kind of draw a little arrow to show that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write that blue equation over again. But when I write it, after I write it, I'm going to erase the L and replace it with 6m. Let me do what I just said. I'm going to write that blue equation, L equals, I don't really need to write the 1 there. I'm just going to write m plus 10. But now I'm going to substitute. I'm going to erase and replace. I'm going to erase that L and replace it with 6m. I'll just stick with blue though, 6m. Okay, I substituted or replaced the 6m in place of the L. Now I have, instead of 2 equations, and you know what? It's blue, but I only have 1 equation, and I only have 1 letter in the equation. Sure, it shows up twice, but it's still easier. We want to isolate the m, or get the m's on the same side. Maybe I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to put the 1 in front of there. I know I said I wouldn't, but it might be easier after all to have the 1 there. After all, 1m, okay? So to get that isolated, to get them on the same side, they've added a 1m. We want to subtract 1m from both sides. That's a 1, not an L. 1m from both sides, minus 1m. Those will simplify or cancel. 6m minus 1m is 5m. We want to write what we didn't cross off. We didn't cross off the equals, and we also didn't cross off the 10. We don't need the plus symbol. And again, now we've got a much simpler equation. In order to find m, we have to do the inverse of what they've done. They multiplied by 5, so we want to divide both sides of this equation by 5. I'm going to say it. We simplify these now. We don't, even though we cross it off, it's really 5 divided by 5, which is 1m. We just don't need to write the 1. m is equal to 10 divided by 5, which is 2. Now remember, we're not done yet because we found one of the unknowns, how many minutes it takes, m, but we also need to find how many laps they ran. So we're going to go back. I like this next part because we want to go back to what we originally wrote. These 2 equations, I'm circling them here. We wrote these equations. We get to pick. The reason I like it is because we get to pick either the red one or the blue one. Both will work. There's a little bit of freedom here. You get to do whatever you like, the red one or the blue one. I'm going to pick the red one, not because red's my favorite color, but because it looks easier. The red equation looks a little bit easier to me. I'm going to write that red equation, and again, I'm going to substitute after I write it. I'm going to write L is equal to 6. I'm going to put the m in parentheses. 6m. But we just said right here that whenever we see m, we could write 2 instead. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to substitute. I'm going to erase and replace. I'm going to erase the m right here and replace it with 2. The 2. So L, according to this, L is equal to 6 times 2, which is 12. That's our other unknown that we had to find. Remember that M is how many minutes they were running, and L is how many laps they ran. So let me just write that. They ran for 2 minutes and 6, after the first kid started, that is. 2 minutes and 6 laps. Oh, I'm sorry, 12 laps. What did I say, 6? So our answers are 2 minutes and 12 laps. I'm writing a cursive L. 12 laps. So let's put that in here. 12 laps in 6 minutes. I'm sorry, 2 minutes. Why did I say 6? Why did I say that? Which is probably a good reason that you all need to write these down. If you're anything like me, you forget something 5 seconds after you wrote it. Okay, so those are our solutions, or our two-part solution. And I know I had to write small, but you can as always, rewind this video or pause it and write down the equations. I'm going to encourage you to do that. And again, don't try to do these in your head. As long as I've been doing them, I still need to write everything down.